Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to give it maybe 30 seconds more before we jump into the kickoff of this training. But if you wouldn't mind dropping where you're hopping into this Zoom from in the chat, I'd love to see where you're showing up from. I see a couple familiar faces, but I don't know all of you, so let me know. I'm here in Naples, Florida, if you aren't familiar with that. So we have sunshine, which is common. Amy's in Bradenton, Palm Bay. Okay, we got lots of people from Florida in the house. Florida's in the house today. That's awesome. That's awesome. And Maryland near DC. Very cool. Fort Myers. Okay, so Florida is definitely representing today. All right. Well, let's jump into our time today. I really want to start by acknowledging all of you who are here live, and there's a lot of you who are going to be watching this replay. And you've signed up for this challenge. You've committed to some time for yourself and to really being able to show up more powerfully for your life, whether that be at work or at home, all of life. And so I acknowledge you for being here and thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I just love to be able to share this information and have the opportunity to do so. So thank you for being here. And this is what today is going to look like. And I just want to kind of give you an overview of the next 3 to 4 days of the challenge and what that looks like. So the official, I guess, workshop days are today, tomorrow, and Thursday, the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of April. Same time, same Zoom. You've got the drill. And we also are having a bonus call next Monday, April 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And that will be an opportunity for us to raffle some prizes, to go a little bit deeper into any of the questions that you might have, and also to get some more deeper one-on-one coaching with me with whatever's coming up for you in this challenge or in your life that you want to bring to me. So we'll talk about how to get there once that day comes. But I do want to talk about the prizes. So for all of you who are here live today, I am going to put your name into the raffle drawing. Every day that you show up live, your name will go into that drawing, and I'll be raffling off a $50 Amazon gift card and also a one-to-one, 1-hour coaching session with me that is valued at $365. And you have to be present to win. So not only do you need to show up for our sessions, but also show up on Monday so that you can get those great raffle prizes, which I'm excited to share with you. Today, we are going to talk about mindset and how to set ourselves up for success during this challenge and this time working together. This is a similar way that I approach any of the work that I do, whether I'm working with leadership teams or with one-on-one executive coaching clients. We're going to talk really about what balance is and what gets in the way of it and what that means for all of us uniquely to be able to start defining it. And then we will close with some Q&A. So what I would suggest is if you do have questions as I'm going through the information, you can drop them in the chat. We've got a small enough group where if you want to raise your digital hand on Zoom, you're able to do that. And unmute yourself when that time comes. The benefit of us having this small group is that we really can, speak to what you are curious about, what you need assistance with, and dive deeper into that. So please take advantage of that opportunity. And, if you are so willing, I would absolutely love and appreciate if you would take yourself off of picture mode or name mode and allow me to see your beautiful faces. That helps me to see whether or not you're resonating with what I'm sharing. I understand it's not always possible, especially like when we're driving and doing things like that. But if you're so willing to let me see your beautiful face, I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. And let's talk a little bit about why this topic is so important to me. I see some of you are driving and can't take your video off. So I get that. Well, I wanted to share why this balance topic is so important to me. This became what I teach and a lot of what I coach people through, really because I failed terribly at balance myself. About 10, 15 years ago, I was very burnt out in my career. I had hit a rock bottom in my marriage with my husband. And, I was physically unwell. I was just sort of resentful at life and what was going on. I was drinking a glass or sometimes a bottle of wine a night to pretend that I wasn't as unsatisfied and unfulfilled as I was. And I got to a point where it just became too much. And what we know about change is that until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, we will stay the same. And I reached that breaking point where it just got to be too much for me. And I recognized that as much as I wanted to point my finger at my stressful job or point my finger at my husband and his role in our marriage, that all of these things were me. They had to do with me. And so I took that pointed finger and I pointed it at myself. And I really committed to the work of emotional intelligence, the work that I wrote about in this book and that I now teach in also a leadership capacity with a lot of the hospitality and service-driven organizations that I work with. But it was an inner transformation that I had to go through. I worked with mindset and business coaches. I worked with therapists and mindfulness teachers and really started to remove all the things that I had learned over the years that pulled me away from authenticity and my own personal power. And in doing so, I was able to really find purpose and joy in my life. I was able to heal that marriage, my marriage with my husband, and to, go back to my very big demanding corporate job with a new sense of purpose and ability to lead without all the extra hours and without all of the burnout and the stress, and a lot better results, a lot more productivity, a lot higher profit share, a lot more happiness in general. And so we're going to dive into some of these aspects as we go through our time today. But my encouragement for you is, we don't always have to wait until life knocks us to our knees to do this kind of work. That's how I got into it. But I've continued to put myself in situations over and over again to keep stripping away the layers of an onion. Really a lot of growth, a lot of transformation is peeling back and releasing what no longer serves us. So we can again step into our authentic power and be able to lead our lives, lead our families, lead our teams to their greatness, to our own greatness. And so I, at this point in my life, continue to take those steps to keep growing. And I can tell that all of you do as well, since you are here right now and you're listening. And then sometimes the universe or life or however you want to view it just kind of kicks us and says, okay, I've been trying to teach you this lesson over and over and over again. And now I'm going to give you an illness, or now I'm going to make your marriage really rocky, or now I'm going to help you lose your job. And then we are forced to open our eyes and see what's going on. And I don't want that for you. I really want this to be a gentler path towards you standing in your power and feeling that feel-good success and that joy and that balance that is possible. Okay, so with that, let's talk a little bit about some ground rules for our time together and the mindset that I want you to approach our work together with. And, again, these are similar ground rules that I will create when we're creating a space with the leadership teams that I work with, or if I'm working with you one-on-one in coaching. These are very similar ground rules that I pull forward because I think they're really important for all of us to work within and to understand. And the first one is that coaching really is a partnership. And I know this is a little bit different setting because this is a small group of us, but I really want you to think about the work that we're going to be doing together during this challenge with me as your coach, a coaching relationship. And so what that means is that you and I both have to bring 100%. I can't want for you more than you want for yourself. And I do. I want you all to really be in your joy and your purpose and your happiness or whatever it is that your heart desires. But I can't want that more for you. I will show up 100% and I will bring all of me. And I ask that you do the same. And in doing so, we're able to meet one another and to support your own growth that will come from it. And part of that comes from, what I call, what I'm sure you've heard before as, committing to this process and trusting in the process. And when I say trusting in the process, I don't mean to blindly follow whatever I'm saying to you right now. I don't want you to blindly follow anyone, anytime, anywhere. But I want you to be open to trusting this process and understand that the exercises that I'm going to have you do and the inquiry that I'm offering you is part of a process. It's what I outline in my book. We're going to get a piece of it together. And it's a process that works should you allow yourself to jump in and do it. With that, we want to be curious and we want to be open-minded. And I think about, we talk about how we can better give and receive feedback as leaders. And I want you to think about that right now for yourself. Consider that what I'm going to share with you today and over the next few days is feedback and opportunities for you to grow and to contemplate and to inquire about what it is that you want to create for your life. And, we don't just take whatever feedback is given to us and implement it, right? Instead, we recognize if we're being open to the feedback, because a lot of times our defenses go up right away and we just don't want to hear it or we get triggered. But we really want to be open and say, okay, I hear this right now. Let me digest this for a little bit. Let me think about this. If there was something that was true about this, what would that mean? And let me take what fits and leave what doesn't. And that's how I really hope that you approach our time together is taking what fits and leaving what doesn't, but just being open and in curiosity as we move through this together. In the Buddhist tradition, they talk about the beginner mind. And if we can approach everything in life as a beginner, it allows us to really gain some wisdom and to keep those learning opportunities going forward. This is one of the biggest challenges that I have when I work with executive leadership teams. They are in that role because they have had a lot of success. But what often starts happening when we have a lot of success is we start having confirmation bias and just rehearing everything that we've already heard, everything that we already know, and reaffirming what we already know to be true. And that doesn't leave space for any growth, any possibility. So can we stay open to say, if there was one nugget for me to take away from this, what would that be? The one other suggestion that I make when I work with leadership teams is, okay, if you were going to bring this information that I'm sharing with you today back to those that you lead, how would you understand this info? How would you be able to teach it to them? Because we know that teaching something is one of the best ways to master something. And if you can take notes during our time together as if I was going to teach this to my best friend or my teammates, that's going to have a deeper layer of understanding that you'll be able to take away from here. The third piece of our ground rule that I want to share with you is that I pledge my confidentiality to you. So I know this is a group setting and that I'm going to be doing a lot of talking as it seems like right now, but I do want to hear from you, from any of you that want to share at any point. I want to tap into your wisdom and hear your experiences and your questions. And I want to make sure that we're creating a safe space, a container where we can have confidentiality. And I know that's a little hard to create in a Zoom space where we don't know everyone who's in the meeting, but let's all set that intention that that's what we are building here, and know that when I work with you one-on-one, that is something that I hold very important. Okay. The final ground rule that I encourage us to all adopt is to be in action. This goes hand in hand with what I spoke about earlier, that coaching is 100% from both of us. I can't want it more than you. I can't do the work for you. I can give you the tools, what's helped me, what has helped all my clients, but you have to take action and do it. That's important for success in all areas of life. So, any questions on the ground rules that we're talking about, please go ahead and, drop them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that as best as I can. Remember to raise your hand if anything comes up and you want to question or share. A couple more pieces of sort of the logistics and orientation that we'll take through the rest of the challenge with us is that, when we go through transformation, whether that's big change or little change, often little changes that we make within ourselves end up rippling out to something bigger. We can experience what I call transformational regression. And it kind of looks like if you were walking up a mountain and you take 2 steps up and then 1 step down, and 2 steps up and 1 step down. And you're taking 2 steps forward, but then sometimes 1 step back, or you're making a lot of progress in your energy and the way you're showing up with the people who are important to you in your life. And then something happens and knocks you off of your feet and it feels like you're taking a step back. That is a natural part of the growth and the success process, right? We sort of fail our way to the top. So I want you to understand that that's likely going to be part of your journey, whether it's happening right now when we're in this challenge together, or as you implement what we're going to go through. There will be 2 steps forward and 1 step back every once in a while. That doesn't mean it's not working for you. That doesn't mean it won't work for you. It simply means you're doing it and to keep going, that we're slowly making progress up if we stay with that mountain metaphor. And resistance. Resistance is a major part of change and a major part of growth. And it's most often when we feel resistance is right before we're about to get the breakthrough, right before we're about to realize that aha moment, right before we're about to get that amazing result that we've been working for. I remember just a few years ago being on the floor of my closet. I had just gotten out of the shower. My hair is soaking wet and it's dripping down me. And I've got tears dripping down my face, just like my soaked hair. And I was on the floor in my closet, just sobbing, because it's sometimes really hard to be an entrepreneur. And I had been, had this coaching program and working with teams and trying so hard and working so many hours and doing all these things. And I just felt like I felt like I should have more results to show for all the work that I had done. And I remembered, being soaking wet, sobbing on the floor in my closet and just kind of wanting to throw in the literal towel and give up. And my husband, came in, and luckily, he was in my life at that point, able to lift me up. And we're so lucky when we have people in our lives that do that for us. And, he kind of gave me a pep talk and said, I believe in you, keep going. And we don't always have those other people in our lives that can do that for us. And so we need to really become our own pep talker of ourselves. But the point of this story that I'm wanting to make is that it was almost like the day later, like literally the day after being on the floor sobbing in my closet, that doors started opening, that the work that I was putting in was started to pay off. People started calling me and getting back to me. And so it's right before that moment of breakthrough that we often stop and we want to give up. And recognize that when that comes for you, to keep going, that it's part of the process. And if you're experiencing any resistance or not wanting to go forward, especially when we're working together in this challenge, like that's what you want to bring to me. When I'm working one-on-one with my clients, that's exactly what we want to coach through, because that's where your next biggest opportunity is. All right. And then finally, you, me, all of us on this Zoom call now live, watching the replay, we all have lots of parts of ourselves. We have our shiny parts. These are the ones that, get put on Instagram and LinkedIn, the ones that we tell people about, the ones that are on our resume. We have parts of us that are a little bit more personal, more quiet, more confidential. We have parts of us that we might feel some shame or some guilt or some anger to, some resentment towards. We are made up of lots of parts of ourselves, and they all are who we are. And part of what I hope that you will start to recognize as we do this work together is that all of those parts make you you. There are not good ones or bad ones. They are parts of you, and they are all welcome here in this program together. And really the beautiful work of what comes from this book and what we're going to work towards together is learning to embrace all those pieces of us, because they all have strengths that we can bring forward as a leader of our own life and of the teams that we work with. So all parts of you are welcome and really needed. And I hope being more and more embraced as we continue doing this work together. Okay. So let me see. I'm just going to take a screenshot right now because I want to make sure that I can get everyone's names for the drawing, the raffle drawing. Okay, cool. And let's jump into, the specific topic of our time together, balance. The Balance is Real challenge is the name that I chose for this special challenge. And, I'm really offering this training because most of you know that my book launched earlier this year. And I wanted to be able to celebrate that in a way, beyond, just the launch party and telling the world about it on my email and social media, and being able to give back in a way, because so many people, so many of my own teachers and mentors and leaders gave to me, the wisdom to be able to share this with others, through this book, through my coaching programs. And I want to be able to give that to you, to those of you who are listening and also watching the replay. So this is a fun celebration opportunity for me as well. But let's talk about what balance is versus what it isn't. And I think that one of the reasons that people believe that balance is a myth, or that balance isn't attainable, or that balance isn't real, is because they look at balance of being like work-life balance. 50% of my time is work and 50% of my time is life. And I use work-life balance every once in a while, but I don't even like that phrase because I think it's life balance, right? Your work is part of your life. Your life are all the things. It's your parenting, your friendships, your community, your work, your health, whatever. All of that is your life. And all of that is what we want to balance. So it's not like you're just going to focus on work half the time and the rest of the time is life. There's way more that comes into who you are. And this, of course, is going to look different for every single person, every single stage of our life. And we really bring our whole selves to work and to our personal relationships. There was a lot, and I think this still shows up in a lot of even the organizations that I work with, is we sort of compartmentalize, and we think that we need to just show up as professional Sarah when it's time to go to work. But the reality is, if I have an illness, or I'm having issues in my marriage, or I have a parent who is sick, or our dog just passed away, or whatever it is, whatever's going on in my life, it impacts how I show up at work. There's no way that it can't, even when we compartmentalize, even when we're good at wearing the masks, as I always was. So as a leader, we have to understand that we are leading humans. We aren't leading people who are coming in to pretend that they're a machine in a factory. And it doesn't give people permission to not perform or to not show up, but we remember that we are human beings and we bring all of ourselves to our work. And in fact, as we look at the newer generations in the workforce, for all of my HR professionals who are either on this call or watching the replay, the younger generations, they really want to be able to be in a place where they belong. They feel like they belong. They can bring all of themselves to work. and be able to share their uniqueness. And in doing so, they're gonna be more committed to the culture, more loyal, and give more. And so we have to recognize that. The same thing. If I have something going on with work and it's really stressing me out, it's really hard for me to be present with my children, to be present with my husband, to have a fun with the girls' weekend. So all of life is impacting us. And the cool thing about the work that we're going to be doing together, which is really emotional intelligence work, is that it's like a 2-for-1, or I guess, however many aspects of your life are you, it's like a 10-for-1, because emotional intelligence really helps us to have more success at both work and home and all those areas of our life where we have relationships, including relationship with ourselves. So we're going to be diving into that and looking at this idea of life balance. What I would like to hear from all of you in the chat is if you could think about what is it that makes this idea of balance so challenging for you? Why did you show up here today? Why did you sign up for this challenge? Why did balance seem hard or not possible or is challenging for you lately? And I would love just to see some of your thoughts in the chat so that we can speak about them today and through the rest of the challenge. So why is balance hard? I'll give you a moment to enter your thoughts into the chat. So I'm getting a few messages direct to me, which private, if you want to do that, that's cool. Or you can share it with the whole group if you're willing. One of the messages that I got said that having a partner that's not as helpful at home makes balance hard. And yes, I can definitely understand that. Being the default parent puts a lot of extra pressure on ourselves. And having too many demands, a workload that is never finished, family, home, time for me, so much to do, so much to do, so much to do. Okay. Managing expectations from others versus what is physically possible. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So none of this is shocking to me. These are things that I've heard from others before. And if you haven't yet put your thoughts in the chat, please do so that I can make sure that we address them either today or during one of our upcoming sessions. And I don't, I said that with a smile on my face, but I didn't mean to belittle anything that any of you shared. I kind of laughed in the reason that a lot of us, we have so many similarities in what's challenging for us. And it's not a shock that it can be. And so what we're going to do as we continue through this work that we're already starting to plant seeds about is look at what we can take care of ourselves, what we can personally control. I talk a lot about Stephen Covey and the seven, my lips are going all mumbly right now. I talk a lot about Stephen Covey and the 7 habits of highly effective people in some of my leadership trainings. And he talks about the circle of influence versus our circle of concern. And, our circle of concern are all those things that we worry about and all of those things that are outside our control. And so I would kind of couple that with what we were talking about here. These are all of the external circumstances. So the things on your to-do list, the whether or not you have a partner that helps at home, the whether or not you're the default parent in your family, all of the things on your to-do list, the expectations of others, the responsibilities that are given to you if you have, a sick parent or a sick child or whatever it is. All of those are external circumstances, and I'm not saying that they don't impact you, and we can talk about tactical ways to manage those. But first and foremost, we need to take care of our inner landscape. We need to take care of what's going on within us, because that is specifically, as Stephen Covey talks about, what is our circle of influence. It's what we can control. It's really the only thing that we can control, right? We can control our thoughts and our response to things. But there's a little caveat to that, because a lot of our thoughts are conditioned and are habitual reactions that we've been doing over and over and over again. And we're going to talk more about that tomorrow. But when we become conscious, we can start choosing thoughts that support us, so that we have a belief system that allows us to take action in a way that is going to create that feel-good balance that we are looking for. So, yes, balance is challenging. And I want to read you, beyond the overall life balance that we just talked about, I want to read you the definition of balance that I talk about in my book. It's on page 106, if any of you have it. And there are two definitions that I really like to lean into when we are creating balance, because you know that in order for us to create something, we have to be intentional and we have to know what it is that we're creating. And so these are the definitions that I like to lean towards when we're creating balance. So the first definition is a condition in which different elements are in the correct proportion. So the correct proportion. The correct proportion, depending on what's important to you at this stage of your life, with what you truly care about and means something to you. The correct proportion, not equal, as we talked about already. And then the second definition of balance that I like to lean into is the distribution of weight that enables someone or something to remain upright and steady. To remain upright and steady. Because what I'm sure you've all experienced is that it's not if the shit will hit the fan, but when the shit hits the fan. It's not if life will knock us to our knees, but when life knocks us to our knees. Life happens. Life gets lifey, as my husband says. And this definition of balance, to remain upright and steady, is having the strength within us to bounce back from whatever life throws at us, to grow, to have that resilience. You know, we can get knocked to the ground and we can lay on the ground in the fetal position and never get up, or we can get the tools to jump up and have resilience and learn from it and grow and even experience that post-traumatic growth that brings higher levels of joy and satisfaction and wisdom on the other side. Does anyone here practice yoga? If you practice yoga, give me a little hand raise or a little reaction. You can click the reaction button on the bottom of your screen. Do I have any people in here that do yoga? Not seeing anything yet. Okay, I got one thumbs up. Okay. So for those of you who don't practice yoga, maybe you've practiced once before. Okay, so I've got a couple people. Yay. Okay. So think about if you've ever tried just standing in a balancing posture, whether maybe you were paddleboarding or on a surfboard or walking a balance beam with your kids, or in yoga, we do a lot of what are called balancing postures, where we're literally balancing on like one leg, or we're balancing on our hands. And in those postures where we're balancing, we're actually not standing still, even though it might look that way. We're constantly shifting and adjusting our muscles, and different parts of our muscles are twitching and firing. And it's creating this look of upright and steady, but there's constant movement. And so that's what I want you to think about as you're creating balance as well, is there's going to be constant shuffles and adjustments. And we need to be conscious enough to make decisions that allow us to adjust and shuffle to keep moving back to steady. And the other thing that I think is important to talk about here is that we need to know where we are heading to. And we're going to be getting clearer on this during our time together. Because if we are moving forward, and I see so many people do this in their careers, they're just, they're going to college, and then they're getting married, and they're buying the house, and they're having the kid, and the dog and the going for the promotion, and they're going on this path. So they're moving, they're taking action, they're doing the things. But in reality, they're supposed to be on this path. And so in order to create balance, we need to make sure that we are taking those steps that are where we want to go, that is in line with what it is that we want to create for ourselves and how we want to feel. So there is that necessity of clarity that helps, that intention that helps. So let's talk about what it is that gets in the way of balance. And I'm just going to make one little note that I want to speak to later. So I'm going to come back to that one. Really, there's a lot of things that make balance hard for us. Other people's needs, other people's expectations. We've got so much going on. Life is throwing so many things at us. I get it. I'm in that constant adjustment of balance to remain upright and steady every single day. These 5 things that I'm going to share with you right now are what impacts our inner state that allows us to be balanced the most. And the first one here is inauthenticity. So inauthenticity is being pulled away from our authentic self, our natural skills, our natural strengths, those things that light us up. This is where what Beverly, you were speaking about, meeting other people's needs and expectations. Yes, we absolutely have to meet other people's expectations at work, right? That's what we get paid for. But we want to understand, what those expectations are and make sure that we're taking action that creates those expectations, not just busy work that needs to be done. But a lot of what our inauthenticity comes from is, the roles that we lead and the things that we do and other people's shoulds, other people's desires for us, what society says success should look like, what our family believes success should look like, what we thought success looked like based on what we were exposed to as a kid. When in reality, some of us are so busy on this treadmill of life that we hardly ever pause, if at all, and say, what is it that I actually want? What is it that I actually care about? When I was a kid, what did I like to do? What did I have fun with? What lit me up? God, what even lights me up right now? I'm so busy in the doing and the doing and the doing. I'm disconnected from what's going on. We often attach to the roles that we lead. I have worked with a lot of women who are in their, I guess, 50s age generally, early 50s perhaps, but they're in the stage of life where they got the degree, they got the job, they got the partner, they got the house, they got the family, and they began to attach to the role of mother. And they were mother all throughout their children's lives. And then all of a sudden their kids are 18. They go away to college or on to whatever the next step of their life is that's authentic to them. And they look at me and they say, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with myself now. I'm no longer this role of mother. And then we start suffering because this role that filled our time and our energy is no longer there. Or we lose our job. And oh my gosh, this job has been my identity. Or gosh, I don't even know if I really like this industry anymore, but God, I've been in it for 15 years. What am I supposed to do now? We attach to this identity and we don't know who we are outside of that role. Even things, this I think it's much more for women than for men, but we attach to the idea of beauty. And when things like wrinkles start appearing around our eyes, or our body starts to change after we have a child, we no longer have that same sense of beauty and we start to suffer and question ourselves, right? So a lot of this inauthenticity comes from an attachment to roles, an identity that we've created for ourselves that maybe doesn't serve us. It also comes from a lot of other people's shoulds and expectations on us. And so what we want to start doing is start to pull away the layers of what everyone else is telling us we should be doing to be successful and truly check in with, well, what does success look like for me? At the end of my life, when I'm lying in my casket, what do I want people to say about me? And what does success feel like for me? If I were to pick a word, and a lot of the words that I get from my clients are words like peace or freedom or joy, can that be my North Star? Can those words be what I'm taking action towards and sort of guide me like a core value versus the just going and the doing of everything that everyone else is telling me to do? If we were to use those words, for example, we could have a decision in our life that we're trying to make, and we could say, all right, will this decision make me feel peace? Yes or no? And then if peace is one of our core feelings that we want to move towards, then it's a system to help us guide our decision making. So we're going to go a little bit more into this, but I want to talk about the other 4 areas that hold us back from the internal strength that's necessary for balance. The second one is what I call bogus beliefs. And these are, just as the name implies, these are false beliefs that we have about ourselves. And these beliefs generally came from our upbringing, from our childhood, from our caregivers. And it's not to point a finger at any of these people that may have contributed to these bogus beliefs that we have, but it's just to recognize that they were given to us. So what we know from human development is that by age 7, our main belief systems about the world have all been created. The way we view the world from either lack or abundance, if we think that everyone's out to get me or that people are genuinely good at heart, if we think that we are worthy or we are not enough, any of these beliefs about the way that we view the world are shaped in us by age 7. So that's early in our experience. One of the bogus beliefs that I had is that I am alone and I'm not wanted. And that showed up in me overworking, trying to prove my worth at work. It showed up in my relationship with my husband, where I only put one foot in the door of our marriage because I was afraid that he would recognize that he didn't want me anymore. And as long as I only put one foot in the door of our marriage, it sort of protected my heart. It protected me from being hurt. And of course, you can imagine if you're only putting half of yourself into a relationship, it's not going to thrive. So these bogus beliefs are, things like imposter syndrome. I'm not enough. I'm too much. I need to smile and look pretty. Gosh, I need to be a tough, strong person. Whatever it might be, we're going to dive into these a little bit more, but these bogus beliefs really are formed by age 7 and shape the way we show up at work and at home in every aspect of our lives. And you've probably done some work around these in your life to some extent. And what I have found, every single point of my life where I have been up leveling, whether that be at work, in my career, in my business, as a parent, in my relationship with my husband, every single up level in my life has required me to look at my own bogus belief through the new wisdom that I have, through the new life experience that I have, and keep pulling back its layers to see where it's holding me back. It's never-ending growth that we get to do, right? That, it's hard at times, it sucks at times, but we get the opportunity to look at it so that we can create that next up level in our life, so that we can create the feel-good success that we want for ourselves. Okay, let's talk about the third area that shows up internally that holds us back from that balance and feel-good success. And it's emotional drama. So this is, drama in relationships that you have or had that you carry around with you and really weighs you down, sucks your energy, sucks the life out of you. I had so much emotional drama, emotional baggage that I was carrying around with me. And I didn't even really realize that I was carrying it until I released it. And I literally felt 10 pounds lighter. We just need some cleanup work to take care of these things and truly let them go. Yeah, it is draining. And, one of the mistakes that I find most people make is they say, oh, I let that go. I let it be. It's all done. I moved on from it. But they haven't really. They've said that, but it's really still in there. They really haven't released it. They really haven't accepted their own co-creation of whatever this drama is with whoever else it might be, and owned that and cleaned up that in order to move on. So we're going to be talking about all of these areas, including this emotional drama that, yeah, is so draining and heavy and feels amazing when we can start to let it go. And the really cool thing about this aspect of feel good balance is that it really impacts the way that we show up with our teams as a leader as well. We might not be having the same kind of conversations that we would with personal relationships, but the same types of tools helps us to lead our team and address conflict, which if you look at any data on conflict and tough conversations in the workplace, most of them aren't happening. 80% of executives are not comfortable having tough conversations with their employees. 80% of the time, our team is avoiding conflict at all costs. And, having the meeting after the meeting and doing extra work and gossiping and holding that heavy, draining energy with us. So these skills, like I said, are going to help us both at work and at home to have more of that feel-good success. The fourth area that we need to tap into is purpose. As human beings, meaning is important to us. Meaning gets us out of bed in the morning. Hope, purpose, something that we feel passionate about. This might be work related. It might be a hobby. It might be a side hustle. It might be a value that you want to bestow upon your team. It can be anything. There's so many different ways that we can look at purpose. And we are going to explore this deeper, probably on day 4. But when we have purpose, it's kind of like that North Star that I talked about before. We're heading towards, with clarity, what we want to create. And it's giving us that pep in our step. It's getting us out of bed, working towards a bigger mission that makes us feel good and keeps us moving forward. What I have found is that we have to move through the inauthenticity, the bogus beliefs, and the emotional drama. We've got to clear all 3 of those things out before we can find or truly connect with or align with our purpose. Once we can take care of these 3 garbage things that are holding us back and weighing us down, it's like our purpose is there, just ready to blossom forward. And so it's really a beautiful process to get there. And then the 5th area, and this is really more of an overarching area that I'm going to share with you, is a lack of mindfulness keeps us stuck internally. Mindfulness is our ability to be self-aware. And actually, I wrote down the definition of mindfulness because some people think mindfulness might be meditation. And yes, that's a way to become mindful. But let's look at the definition of mindfulness. So the definition states, a quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. For those of you who have done any work with me or have been in my emotional intelligence trainings or keynotes, you know that self-awareness is the first pillar of emotional intelligence. And to be a high impact, high engagement leader, we have to have that self-awareness. So mindfulness brings that self-awareness and allows us to recognize where our opportunities for growth are. We can't change anything if we aren't first aware of it. And so that's why coming to a challenge like this That's why working with a coach or a mentor, that's why seeing a therapist, all of these modalities and people are ways for you to, hold a mirror up to yourself and say, okay, what am I not seeing? What are my blind spots? Because if we can't see them, we can't change them. When we become more mindful, we're able to start seeing our blind spots even more. So what I want to do is I want to take just a couple minutes to do a short meditation with you, and everyone's got your cameras off, so you can stay that way if you want to. Most of the time, this is when people would shut their cameras off because they want a little bit of privacy. So let me first and foremost say that meditation is not the only step towards mindfulness. We can spend hours talking about how to build our self-awareness when we're looking at those emotional intelligence trainings. But mindfulness is really about being present. So the other definition that I didn't yet read is mindfulness is a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment, while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's thoughts, feelings, and body sensations. So a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and body sensations. So we can be present by watching a sunset. Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook and the CEO or owner of Meta, says that he practices mindfulness by going kite surfing, because when he's kite surfing, he is doing nothing but present to his body and doing so he can balance on that kite surf board. So there are lots of ways that we can practice being present so that we can recognize when all these cards that I talked about are showing up and holding us back. So I'm going to do a very brief meditation with you, just a couple minutes to get us into our bodies and just practicing what that awareness feels like. And then we'll have a couple minutes for questions before we wrap up at the end of the hour. So go ahead and come into a comfortable seated position wherever you're at. You can close your eyes. Let's take 3 cleansing breaths. So take a big breath in your nose and then out your mouth, just release. You can make some noise if you're in a private space, feels good. Take another big fresh breath in and exhale, release anything that's not serving you right now. Just let it out. Let's do one more big cleansing breath. Inhale and big exhale. And now just allow yourself to breathe naturally. In and out your nose. Sit up a little bit taller in your seat, letting your shoulders drop back and down. Reaching the crown of your head up towards the sky. And then place your hands, palms down on top of your thighs. This is a very grounding hand posture. Notice your breath. Notice any sensations in your body. Notice where your sit bones connect to the chair, where your feet are perhaps planted on the ground. So the act of meditation is really being an accepting observer of whatever comes up. It's a myth that meditation is about clearing your mind. In fact, it's about allowing whatever's in your mind to be there, but to allow you to be the witness of it, the observer of it, and to allow it to just be and float on like a cloud versus attaching to it and creating story and drama and head hurricane around it. And so take just a few more moments, noticing your breath, noticing whatever's coming up. And just letting it be, accepting it as it is. And then as you sit in this space of presence, I want you to consider, what is it that you want to create for your life? Is it a feeling, a word, a vision of what feel-good success looks like for you and feels like? What is it that you want to create? And again, we don't judge whatever comes up. We're just being curious and accepting of it and practicing the art of being mindful. Begin to wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes and start to roll your shoulders back and gently, gently, no rush, make your way back to our Zoom call here. And as you're doing that, I'm going to grab my growth work, also known as homework, for all of you. So, oops, let me just do one more thing here. We are coming to the end of the hour. So as I grab our growth work, which is going to be a Google Doc, I just need to make sure the share properties are correct. If you do have any questions, you can drop them in the chat or you can unmute and ask. If we don't get to it today, I'll make sure to address it tomorrow. Okay, good. This link will work. Okay, so you should, whoops, I think I just sent that privately. Let me put this in the whole group chat. So this will come out to you via email with the replay video. And you can also just go to this Google Doc right now and maybe bookmark it, because we'll be adding in homework every day of the challenge and anything else that you might need. Whatever came up for you in that meditation, I encourage you to write down and journal on. Again, just being curious as to what it was. And then there are a couple journal questions here on this document that I would like you to take just 5 minutes to complete by tomorrow. Where in my life am I putting on a front, wearing a mask, hiding or pretending? What shoulds are present in my life? I put some examples in there so that you know what they could be. And then I want you just to say, are these really my shoulds? Are they really things I care about? Or are they just maybe given to me by someone or society or something that, you know, isn't really important to me? We're going to start to really identify what's important for you when you're creating balance and feel good success. Okay, so I don't see any questions. If you have any, you can email them to me or just bring them to our next meeting tomorrow. So honor all of you for being here. I want to respect all of our time and end on time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you tomorrow, and great work, everyone. Bye-bye.